Welcome in, everybody, to the newest episode of All Things NBA from A to Z. I'm Chris Persianen here alongside Zach Noble. Excited, ready, pumped to be back on the show. And today, the concept is simple. The soapbox is an easy one to step up on. We're doing power rankings for the Eastern Conference. We're going to talk about these teams. And Zach, I think you wanted to get in a little bit into how you exactly do power rankings because I'm going to follow your lead on that.
I like to say it's a lot of right now, but it's always with the concept of best chance to win a title this year. So they got to be playing good right now, but that's only 60% of the equation, 70% of the equation. The rest is best chance to win a title this year is still going to be my top picks.
Absolutely. Well, I hear you there, and I'm excited to get into this because I think once the bottom shakes itself out, we've got a really interesting conference on our hands. And the middle, like the 3 to 8, is so intriguing because you could have any order of teams, and I would probably be fine with it, So I'm going to start out. I'll go first in
Let's
15th place,
bottom
and
down. Yeah, bottom
uh,
down.
this should be no surprise that I have them in last place. It's the Washington Wizards. I mean, for Kuzma to say you don't want to be that team, you don't want to be the team that loses to the Pistons, and then to end up being lower in the standings than them, I think unfortunately says a lot about where the morale of that team is at. I don't buy this team to win significant or serious games before the end of the year. They always have trouble finding point guard play. And you thought maybe Tyus Jones would at least bring a steady hand to that position, but the lineups where he's the point guard are not looking good. So I'm going to go with the Wizards last. Zach, who do you have?
Yeah, so I have 6 tiers. This is the only team in a tier of their own. They're tier 6, all by themselves. I just think they're that bad, and I was dead on from the beginning of the year. I said they were going to be the worst team all year. I don't believe in any of their talent whatsoever. I'm very low on them. Been on it all year. I can't say I've been that accurate this whole way, but the Wizards are who I've been accurate on. So I know bad when I see bad. And Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole were never going to work as a duo, never going to work as franchise cornerstones. And Bilal, as much as you might like him as a role player, he doesn't have any sort of meaningful ceiling. So I'm just really worried about this franchise for the next many years. I think they're in hell right now. Good luck getting out of it. And yeah, that's what I got to say. Still giving Johnny Davis meaningful minutes is the list goes on. I mean, it's ugly there.
Hey, man, you can't fault them for wanting to play Johnny. You can't fault them for trying to
You
get
gotta
something out.
try anything.
Dude, he's played 27, 22, and 15 in the last 3 games, all blowout losses. The 5 games before that, he played 8, 5, 9, 8, and 18 minutes. 2 of them in wins, of course, but he didn't play much in the wins. And 4 of 7 against Boston. Okay, that's something. 8 points, 2 blocks, 4 rebounds. Like he shows flashes that are like this guy might be an NBA player. But I think it is sad that that's where we're at with him. And I was really high on him out of his draft because I loved his shot making ability. And it just hasn't translated because he can't create space. He can't do anything that's not, in that Big Ten level. So kind of stinks, but we move on and upward here in the
Let
standings.
me just ask you
Oh, go
real
ahead.
quick. Does Corey Kispert, Kuzma, and Denny fit together in a starting lineup? Because those are the only 3 starters I see for them. You
Yeah,
can
they
sure
do.
say Koulibaly for somebody in there,
Oh,
but
Koulibaly is definitely a starter for them, man. You got to
sure he's
invest
out.
in in your high draft picks.
But you think they fit?
You can let Kispert roam as a 2 guard, and then it's just tough defensively. You need Denny covering up a lot. I would say the defense, offensively, I think it's honestly fine. Defensively, but it's only fine because they don't have better players. Defensively, I don't know
That's
that.
what I'm saying. If you got a 1 and a 5 that are like all stars, they have to be pretty damn good on defense for those 3 players to fit together, I
Right.
think.
I think realistically, they're all 3 won't be on the team if they're anything close to good.
There you
So
go.
it's just about getting talent now and figuring that all out later. Another team that needs to do that as we notch up in the standings. For me, number 14, I've got the Charlotte Hornets. Um, this team is rudderless, man, and LaMelo's availability is a legitimate concern at this point. He doesn't play a lot of games. I know it's tough to be an outsider, not covering the Hornets and just sitting here being like, "Oh, LaMelo needs to play more." Like that's not how I'm trying to sound. I just think you need to legitimately call into question the guy's availability at this point because it's gotten to the point where it's unavailable. Like you don't have him for a lot of games. You see Clifford talking about the contract the Nets gave to Ben Simmons. Like you could tell he's kind of talking about LaMelo too a little bit. So just all interesting to me. And I think LaMelo's so awesome. I think he's so talented. I just want to see him play more. So for the Charlotte Hornets, they did the right thing. They moved PJ Washington. They got a nice first round pick from Dallas. They got Mark Williams. They got Brandon Miller. Nick Smith Jr. I like. They're just they're throwing stuff at the wall right now to see what sticks, and that's not an inspiring place to be. I love Steve Clifford. I'll bump them ahead of the Wizards, but man, this team is pretty miserable. And just take a look at their schedule recently and how they've handled it. Do we need to look past much further than the Magic being a 112-92 victory for Orlando, where at one point they were leading like 62-26? Like they came back and made it a 20-point game. That's where this team's at. So I've got the Hornets at 14. What about you, my man?
I'm okay with you having the Hornets there. I mean, it's pretty close. This next tier 5 for me is 11 through 14. I think these guys are all right in that notch. So, I have the Hornets at 13, but at 14, I have the Detroit Pistons. I just think record wise, it's 5 game difference over the last 10. It's a 1 game difference. I still think Charlotte is the better team. Miles Bridges and Brand Miller are enough for me to put. They're way more consistent than Cade and Ivy. I do like the depth and all around core of Charlotte better. And I think Steve Clifford's doing a slightly better job with that team, even though, I mean, the Pistons are starting to play a little better recently. Games are a little more coherent, you can say, but I still don't like what the Pistons have outside of Cade and Ivy. I really don't like it. Need to see a lot more out of us there. I do believe in him long term, but yeah, it's tough for me to really buy into much of this team. I do like the body language. I do like the tone that's coming out of there more. I think they're having a lot more fun than they were a month or two ago. A lot of that's coming down to Ivy. I think he's finding more of his groove and being a little more consistent, but it's not much. So that's my difference there. Brand Miller just keeps climbing for me. I'm really high on him, even though he's really bad on the road compared to at home. That's something interesting to keep an eye out on. But yeah, 13, 14 for me.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, my next team up is who you just said, you had there. It's the Detroit Pistons for me at 13. So bumping one up in the standings. I want to try and get through these bottom teams a little quicker. I've got the Pistons at 13, and that's because I do think they're fired up for the rest of the season. Like, listen, I understand we're doling out sympathy brownie points at this point in the standings, but like they only lost to the Heat by 3 because of the Bam game winner. They beat Toronto by 9. Um, and you take a look at how they beat the Hornets, 114-97. Okay. And when the opponents are not playing good defense, the Pistons score a lot of points. So like they've had a lot of games against the Heat recently. They've been playing them pretty well. Um, you figured they might sneak one out. They might get one. They did not. They lost all 3, but just in general, they lost to the Clippers by 6. I know that game was a little different, but Kawhi and Paul George played 36 and 35. So, the Pistons are playing teams well. I'm going to put them here at 13 kind of shamelessly because the All-Star Thompson's been amazing. Ivy is getting used now. Cade is really starting to figure things out. He's making some ridiculous passes. I see it slowly starting to piece together, as you were saying. So that's why I've got them a notch above Charlotte. So I've got Wizards, Hornets, and then the Pistons at 13. Who do you have?
So
You have the
on the
Hornets. Talk about it.
Yeah, no. So on the Pistons though, Jaden Ivey, do you think his year being basically identical to last year, essentially, which is unfortunate. I hate seeing that, even though he's showing really high flashes just at certain games throughout both years. Do you think it's strictly just the new coach coming in and trying to figure out this team and the players, the system, or why do you think he's been pretty identical to last year?
I think it's hard for guards to develop that are his archetype of guard like really quickly. They need to come along in a lot of different ways. And so I think for him, there's like a little bit of an impatience factor just because of how high the draft slot was for him. But, you also want to justify taking a guy that high. You should play him, right? Just look at the last time out, 29 minutes against the Boston Celtics. The guy had 21, 5, and 5 on 10 of 19 shooting. That's a good basketball player that's capable of doing that against a team like that. It's just for me personally, you go the whole start of the year basically having him out of the rotation. He's lost out on so many reps, right? So, yes, 6 of 17 shooting against Cleveland, 6 of 15 against Miami, 7 of 21 against Dallas, 3 of 14 against Miami. Like when he plays good teams, he really struggles sometimes, but that's okay. He's a young guard, he's an athletic, punchy young guard, and those guys do take a little bit to come around if they're not that Ja Morant upper echelon of talent and athleticism. Like Ja Morant showed you in the NCAA tournament in that upset, that like, hey, I know I'm on Murray State. Who cares? Right? This is my time. Ivy never really put
Yeah,
himself
you're
up
right.
on the
Ivy
stage
did
like
show
that.
that.
So you can't expect him to come to the NBA and start asserting himself to that extent. Ivy had a half court shot for Purdue. Like, okay, what he showed you was that he has all the tools and access to game breaking athleticism that can allow him to grow into something pretty special.
Well, one thing I'm gonna say on Ivy, I like digging to find the most consistent sample size of him is there's a 15 game stretch, um, February and beginning of March here. This is his very best stretch throughout his career, really. 43% from the field, 37 from three, 84 from the line, 3.5 assists, a steal, only 2.7 rebounds, but 19 points. Where I mean, his averages are way lower than that across the board. So, I mean, if he can like put up those numbers for a whole year next year, that's what I'd like to see. But I still don't like the him and Cade fit. One of them's got to become a much better shooter, I think.
You told me you had the Hornets at 13. You kind of spoke about it a little bit, but was there anything else you wanted to add about that team before we move on? I feel like, to be honest, no.
Yeah, no, we're good. We can move to 12.
If you had to say something, you had something to say, but you don't have to say something. You don't have to say much more about that Charlotte team.
Yeah, just consistency, like I said. That's why I got him above
Yeah.
Detroit and players. I just like their depth a little better right now. So number 12,
For oh,
Toronto Raptors.
for you? Oh,
Yep.
okay. Jumping me in the standings now. All right. Jumping me with
Oh, did you not get 13? Sorry. Who was your 13?
No, I gave 13, but I've been going first. you,
Go.
you said
Go.
No, I'm interested that you have the Raptors. Wow. Okay, I don't. I have the Brooklyn Nets here. This again feels like a rudderless team. They don't give a crap about what Kevin Ollie has to say. He's trying his best, and it's not good enough, I think is the way to put it. So for me, I can't say I'm in at all on this Brooklyn team because I don't think Brooklyn's in on Brooklyn. So you take a look at the way they've been playing. Feels like Claxton just wants to get out of there. Feels like Bridges wants to go play up in Manhattan with all his college buddies. It feels like Cam Johnson wishes he could just stay home and watch UNC try to make a title run. Like it doesn't feel like these guys want to be there. And I think the whole coaching situation is part of that. Did Vaughn maybe get unfairly fired? Yes, but that doesn't mean he was doing at all a good job while he was there. So it's tough. It's like the Knicks fired David Fizdale and brought in Mike Miller, who by just being a subpar, mediocre NBA head coach was a huge improvement. I thought Brooklyn could have had that kind of development, but what a weird choice from ownership to go with a college guy, and it's not been working. So for the Brooklyn Nets, I've got them at 12 because they have more talent than any of these teams I have below them, but they don't necessarily show it too often.
All right, so I'll talk on Brooklyn, even though we got them swapped here. Uh, Brooklyn, I agree with everything you just said. Seems like the players need to be elsewhere. It's hard to figure out who is lasting on this team. And I mean, Mikal in Brooklyn right now, and I think this, for me, my opinion has shifted dramatically from the beginning of the year. I bought into his success statistically last year, and just
I told you that was
you were
Mickey
right on that.
Mouse.
Yeah, you were right on that. And I never said he was going to be number one, but I did think he could be like a solid number two on a championship team, like if he kept trending at the way he was, and I thought he was going to. But he went backwards closer to his Phoenix days, even maybe even less, you could say, than his Phoenix days. He's, to me, he's even down to like a 3-4 on a championship team, not a 2-3 like I was thinking at the beginning of the year. But that, I'm not saying that's concrete, because this team is not good. Like, it's hard to say somebody is who they are when they don't have a good team around them, like a team that even gives them
Right.
a fair fight.
And to be fair, I think he's learning a lot about playmaking for others because he's overcast in this role. Look at Randall on the Knicks when he first started out. He did not have good teammates, and he learned a lot about passing the rock and playmaking for others. So I don't think it's terrible for McCall that he's having this experience. I just think we need to be able to acknowledge him as not a number one. His team is not good. Like, we don't have to lie about it while we do it, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, it just, my personal experience with Karl Anthony Towns, I know you can say their levels might be a little bit different, but Mikal is such a better defender than Cat, and he fits so much more seamlessly into many more teams than Cat ever will. Just their play styles. And Cat, I mean, was always really crucified for the bad teams he had and not being able to do much with them early in his career. So similar. I think it's kind of similar, just because I'm still pretty high on what McCall can bring to a team, and I think there's an opportunity that you can see a cat-like impact out of McCall coming up in the future if he gets in a situation. I just don't know how excited he is about
Mm.
being a cornerstone in Brooklyn. He went from being closer to like the maxi happy-go-lucky type echelon to being seems miserable. Like,
He's going to be recruiting the hell out of Donovan Mitchell to come to Brooklyn because he
exactly.
knows he needs someone better than him to go back to showing what he could on defense. It's hard when you carry that much of an offensive load to be so productive on defense. But now, Zach, I'm itching to get to this next team I have because I know you had them at 12. I have them at 11. It's the Toronto Raptors. Let's head right up north because if you can't tell, I need to talk about this team right now. I need to know how you're higher on Brooklyn than them.
Yeah, so for me, it's overall season, the record's better by a few games. I mean, they're
But they traded Siakam. They traded
three and a half
Anunoby.
games. Yeah, I know, and they've started to slide. I mean, Brooklyn's also the last 10, 3-7. Toronto's 1-9. So that's why I also have them flipped. To be honest, Kevin Ollie might be a little better coach. I mean, I'm still not bought into Toronto's system, team, and what they're running. I do like Toronto's players better. Don't get me wrong. Toronto's players are so much better. It's just, like I said, at the moment here, I mean, neither one of them have a chance to win a title this year.
I don't
So,
think I'm a Darko guy. I'm not
yeah,
sure that I'm a
and
Darko guy.
I'm not. But I'm not out on him. I'm still giving him a decent opportunity. I don't think this team should be doing a ton better, but they should be doing better if you were a decent coach. And like, he's definitely not exceeding expectations. You can maybe argue he's maybe matching them, but I still think talent on this team is better than their 23-45 record. That's I think the talent honestly should be closer to Chicago or Atlanta record wise. That's where I see them sitting. With that said, their new additions, I mean, Emmanuel Quickly, like, I still would like them to lean into him a little more, you know? That's a big thing. RJ, he's looking like he's reverting back to his New York Knicks ways a little bit. I just think they need to lean into both those guys a little more than they have, and I still don't think they understand what they truly have in Scotty either. But what are you thinking? How they're using these guys, and yeah, why are they above Brooklyn to you?
I think they've entrusted quickly. Barrett was really stringing together some nice performances before he, took time away because of the really unfortunate passing of his younger brother. But he looked really solid prior to that. Even with everything, had a war zone going on between his years, and he was still showing up to work, looking really solid. You got to feel for him and his family and everything with that because it's just so terrible. I'm an only child. I couldn't imagine, right? So that's a factor if you want to look at
I didn't
recent
catch
play.
that. That's something for sure.
17-year-old younger brother, just absolutely
Damn.
terrible. Um, but now he's taking some time away. You gotta just if anyone blames him for that, I think you're a loser. Like straight up, you
Hmm.
can't be upset. So he hasn't been playing recently. But the last game RJ did play. Oh, what's that? 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists on 10 of 20 shooting against the who? The Denver Nuggets? Like, come on, man. He's hooping. He has been putting some good games together recently. 9, 4, 1, 5, 4, 6 assists in his last couple times out. So I think he's looking better. I think the ball's moving freely there. Grady Dick is coming along, and you're seeing him start to contribute now a little bit. I think this Toronto team has some juice. I think they have stuff to play for. They all want to prove themselves. Young, hungry guys. Darko, first year coach, wants to prove his guys can get out there. They have more of an edge to them than any of these teams below them. And for the Toronto Raptors, I think part of it for me too is Quickly, Barrett, and Barnes are a volatile, up and down kind of trio in the sense where when the ceiling is being even nearly reached, they look really good, but they have games where none of the three can create inside the arc. None of the three can create for anyone else. None of the three can hit a shot besides Quickly. So it's a little up and down, back and forth with them. But you got to remember this team, they still got, I mean, you take a look at Kelly Olynyk, that acquisition, like he's a good player, right? He's just
I
straight
love
up
it.
a good player. And I just think it's fair to look at Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and then Barrett, Grady, Quickly, and Barnes. And the fact that they also employ Jakob Pertl and Gary Trent Jr., like they have good players. So for me, this team is number 11 on my Eastern Conference power rankings, and I flirted with 10. But I'm gonna go with 11 because they're young and inconsistent. I do think though that they could definitely beat like the 2 or 3 teams I have above them in a 7 game series. So it's tough, but right now without projecting that they're going to get closer to their ceiling by the end of the year. Right now, I'm going to put them at 11.
I'm sorry. It's the immature peanut brain inside of me that I just can't. Every time I think of Toronto now, I think of my boy Grady Dick and the Anthony Black jersey swap. That was just too classic. And
Then when do they
somebody, some
play? When do they play Orlando? He needs to
no,
get. He needs
it
to get
already
Jalen.
happened.
He needs to get Jalen.
Oh my gosh. Come on now. uh, uh, some idiot reporter, why I was just reminded of this. Some idiot reporter, I had to ask him about it. It's like, come on, dude, just let it be. Let the kids have fun. Um, yeah, that was classic. But he's starting to look a little better too on the court. The whole team, I like the players, honestly. I do. And RJ, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't mean he's fully back to being inconsistent. Like, he's definitely been better in Toronto. Like, he has been leaned on a little more. But I mean, I still think there's more to him. And yeah, I definitely give him a massive pass. And I've seen more than enough for his time in Toronto to believe that he's going to even up it next year. I think he's excited to be playing in Toronto. And yeah, you got to give this guy some time here. This is as bad as it gets in life. So hopefully these other guys can develop in the time he's away. And yeah, let's see what Darko's got developmentally, man. All right. So shall we move on here?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go to who I have at number 10, which I think I was really toying with putting the Raptors over this team.
Mm.
Um, but for me, at number 10, I've got the Atlanta Hawks. I'm just not super in on this team without Trey Young. It's such a hard sell. It's such a hard sell for me to be like, oh, this team is good without Trey. They're not. But DeJounte is good. And some of the talent on this team is still intriguing. I don't care what people say. Jalen Johnson is like really, really good today. Like right now, he's a really good basketball player. Clint Capella is no stud, but he's a good rebounder. He's a decent defender. I love Bogdanovich as a gunner, and like Wesley Matthews started for them the other night, so that's where they're at as a franchise right now in
That's
2024.
that's insane.
Um, but when healthy without Trey, obviously for the rest of the year, I do think this is a team that has a fun ceiling. When they get rolling, they look decent, and obviously the shots have to be falling, but they've got a lot of names I like on the roster, and I know that necessarily the success hasn't been there this year. Um, they're 4-6 in their last 10, but I can't get over the fact that at 30 and 38 they're doing all right without Trey. I don't think it's a huge like loss to the point where they're just uh, unable to win a basketball game. They lost to the Jazz by 2 the other night. The Clippers they beat. So, they have their up nights, their down nights. Sometimes they lose to the Trailblazers, sometimes they beat the Clippers. It's that kind of squad at this point in the year, but I'm going to go with 10 for them because I do think there's still something there. Obviously, DeJounte Murray is still a good basketball player. And now that he isn't playing off the ball, now that he's back to being the lead guy, I think it's fun and it's a better fit for him than obviously it was shown with the Trey pairing that things weren't working too great. So at least for the rest of the season, 10th place for this team. Not a team I'd put any money on to win a playoff series or anything close, but fun group.
I mean, anything close, they're going to be in the play-in. I mean, they're well on track. They're 4.5 games above the Brooklyn Nets. I agree. They're the 10th team power rankings, and they're in the standings wise. But not getting too futuristic here. Take out Trey Young. Which roster do you like better if Trey Young's not on the team? Raptors or Hawks?
To win games or which
Just
to move forward with.
to move forward with. Like, we don't need to
Raptors.
get.
Easily Raptors.
Okay. No, I'd agree to that. So how about what Trey?
You got to go with the Hawks. Trey Young is
Okay.
is Trey Young
See,
is
that's
is
why I asked that question.
really really good.
Um, I do agree on everything there. It is interesting. Jalen Johnson, something I've been monitoring, and with the usage, I mean, 18% or more. The Hawks are 15 and 13. When he's under that 18%, they're 10 and 12. So I think it's a pretty solid sample size. They need to lean on him more. It's kind of like I felt the same thing with John Collins. They didn't use him as much as he could. I think they slowed down his
Well,
trajectory and
he doesn't have game with the ball in his hands. So
not nearly Jalen Johnson's level, but I do
Johnson
think
can pass. Johnson
I
can
agree.
play make for others.
I agree. He's got more game to him, but I just
Johnson
like,
is like if NBA draft Twitter tried recreating Julius Randle.
okay. So there's a good comparison. Like Julius Randle to Amari Stoudemire, okay? But like a poor
Amari
version.
is
I never
crazy.
thought John Collins
Amari
could
is
be
crazy.
I never thought John Collins could be Amari Stoudemire, but I do think he could score more on closer to that level, not like Julius Randle ball handling, playmaking, passing, game style, play styles. That's my thoughts on that. And Jalen Johnson, it's going to happen again the way things are going. I get lost at what this team like. It's another one where Quinn Snyder like he's coaching more now with Trey Young being gone. I've definitely noticed that because he's had to figure out ways to get other people involved. DeJounte just is a completely different player than Trey. Um, and he has been leaning on Jalen Johnson a little more. And Jalen's increases from last year are insane. He's definitely top 10 most improved, 5 to 16
Top
points.
five.
What?
Top five most improved.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Jalen, dude, he's got his top 10 is way too
For sure.
that's a
Yes.
weak take. Like that's like saying Giannis is top 10 in the NBA.
Come on. I mean, there's so many guys that are improved, but like it's usually like first of all, second year guys, he's either second or third year, whatever he is. But like second year, third year guys, rarely in most improved, like worthy in my opinion. It's that fourth year and on. But his jumps are insane. Field goal 49 to 52, three 28 to 36, free throw 62 to 72, so on, everywhere across the board. So he's one of those guys you just got to keep developing and leaning on when you're not necessarily trying to win a ton of games. Like Bogdan, like I think there's too much Bogdan going on.
That's fair. He's a fun, solid bench gunner on a good
Yeah.
team. Not necessarily the shot creator, shot maker, and taker that he has to be when Trey's out. So there's a bit of a miscasting there, you know.
Sadiq Bey has tried to make more of a resurgence to be the guy he once was in a shitty team in a rookie year, but his efficiency is still off. I mean, it's really comes down to Jalen Johnson as their spot that they're really developing where they can, and this is the perfect time to do it. When there is a lot of opportunity with Trey Young being gone. That's what I like them to lean into more, go wild and look at Jalen Green. I mean, going from one of the top guys getting all the usage and the touches to having to figure that out with a really talented
Yes.
more vets. That's the situation. Like you got to know what season you're in as a team, and this is developmental season. Lean into this dude. So that's what I want to talk on the
Mm.
Hawks.
Well, I hear you, and I think, you know, to move up in the standings now and pivot, talking about the most improved market, Kobe White probably going to run away with that award based on the season he's having. That's who I've got at number 9 is the Chicago Bulls. I don't know how that makes you feel, but Chicago still has good players. Vucevic is a good player. DeRozan's a really good player. He's really, really good. Like DeRozan's really good. He just requires such a specific fit. Um, that I think it's hard to be like, oh, he's still a star, he's still whatever. He's not, but he's really good. Like he's better than Tobias Harris, you know, and maybe
He's clutch. Oh,
that's
do not ever put Tobias in. Oh my God, Tobias is
I'm talking about
so
non
ass.
all stars on big contracts, like you know,
And Demar's a
Demar's.
pretty reasonable deal.
Yeah, exactly. Like he definitely deserves that kind of deal. I think it's easy here. Kobe White having a bit of a surgence. I won't say resurgence, just a surgence. With Zach LaVine off the table, kind of replaces that production. This is kind of what kind of team I thought the Bulls were this year. So White getting better than I expected. LaVine not playing at all leaves them right about where I expected they'd be this season. 9th place on my power rankings and in that second to last tier. So, you know, the Nets, Pistons, Hornets, Wizards were one tier for me. The Bulls, Hawks, and Raptors were another tier. They're the top team in that tier of this team has no shot at a title. So the bottom tier is bad and no shot at a title. The next one is bad and still no shot at a title, but not playing for ping pong balls. Next up is good, but not my title favorites. And that's why I think the Bulls are not in there because they're not even considered as title favorites. No one would talk about it. That's why I've got them in 9.
Yeah, so I mean, Chicago and Atlanta are in a tier, their own tier four, my 6 tiers in the East. Um, it's pretty straightforward. You put DeMar DeRozan as your best player on your team. Um, DeJounte Murray is the best player in yours. You're gonna get them about to where they are, and that's decent. Like I like their supporting cast for those guys being the best players. They're not bad supporting casts. Even they just don't deserve great supporting casts because they don't deserve to be the best player on the team, and that's up to the general management. Um, you shouldn't be middling with those, especially in Atlanta, because you got young talent in Trey and DeJounte. Um, that's a huge mess in itself. But DeMar DeRozan should never ever be the number one, and that should have been discovered a long time ago. And Chicago, like next to Washington, teams that are in trouble, it's Chicago trying to figure this out because Kobe White doesn't have that high of a ceiling to me. They obviously got to play this year out. And what I think they should do the rest of the year, there's like I really don't have a ton of insights because they just got to play and enjoy these DeMar moments. There we go, the
I was gonna say,
moments.
where are you going with this, man?
The
The moments.
The 46-point clutch game. I mean,
That was
you get
awesome.
a couple of those. That was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But yeah, there's not much this team can do other than try to maximize this mediocre team. So we don't need to touch on them very much. And Kobe
Yeah.
White, he's not injured right now, is he? Yeah, he got a little banged up in his hip. He's a game time decision coming up. Patrick Williams also out for the year. So it is literally, let's enjoy these moments of DeMar. Hopefully he can
The
give us a couple
moments,
more. The moments. I'm
the
gonna
DeMar
coin
moments.
that shit.
All right. Well, you do that. Meanwhile, I'll talk about my team in eighth place, and these guys were impossible to place. Part of me wanted to put them at number 5. Part of me wanted to put them at number 8, and part of me wanted to put them everywhere in between because I just didn't know. But the reporting has not been great about the potential return from injury for Joel Embiid. They're saying first, second week of April. And, I tried factoring in that a little bit. But for right now, I've got the Philadelphia 76ers here at number 8. I think it's pretty simple. Tobias Harris has been an albatross contract for this team. And Tyrese Maxey is really fun, but man, is it not enough. Man, is it not enough. Buddy Hield, nice little acquisition. Daryl Morey can say, hey, yeah, Joel, I was totally trying to tool up around you. You should stay in Philly. And then when they trade Joel and they are rebuilding with young players, Hield will provide spacing for Maxey and their young forwards and bigs. Um, I just think it's a little silly to totally count this team out because when Joel Embiid is healthy, he just happens to be one of the best 5 basketball players on the planet. So, you can never really count them out if he's supposed to come back, but we don't know when he's going to come back. We just know he's supposed to come back in like 3 weeks. Not good enough for me. So they're here at the 8th place on my power rankings.
Man, see, I like that you put them there. I think that's completely fair. Um, they're very close for me.
There's a but.
But
There's a but. There it
yeah,
is.
no,
There it is.
I still think their depth is a little better than the Indiana Pacers, who I have at number 8. And recently they're 5-5. This Pacers are 5-5 as well. So I kind of just give them the half a game nod too, which is kind of lazy of me. You can definitely like argue either way. I think Maxey's playing the best of these two teams here. I prefer him to Halliburton at the
For
moment,
sure.
and
I mean, I
that's why
did.
I
I have all year. That's not that. I think Halliburton's become one of those players
all
where if
year is crazy though.
I
Halliburton was so good there.
and you knew the shooting wasn't sustainable. You knew that guy's not Steph Curry. Like Halliburton's become one of those players where like if you say he's not the greatest thing since 2005 Chris
Right.
Paul, you're a hater. I really don't think that's the case. You guys can go watch our All Things NBA 25 and under draft where I selected him in that draft and I sung his praises as the kind of player I drafted him to be on that team. But that's the thing is I didn't draft him to be my number one option or my star. I drafted him to be a complementary piece. And on a really, really good team, I think Halliburton's a number 2 or a number 3. That's not an insult. That's better than
No,
Mikal Bridges. That's better than OG Anunoby. That's better than a lot of guys like that. So I'm not hating by just trying to keep it a buck and say I'm not that huge on him compared to someone like Tyrese Maxey, who I think can go get you a bucket late in the clutch, has that unteachable clutch gene, plays just at a multitude of paces and really knows how to control an offense. And he's still just learning. So, like I told you last offseason, I didn't think Maxey would make some huge jump this year with Harden gone and now Embiid out. Maxey's been putting lots of stats up. So I was wrong about that. The jump is there, but I still don't know that I didn't trust him with any real significant role on a playoff team just yet. That's not like really fun and good third option. So I we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. But for me, with your squad here, you're talking about having the Pacers this low, and I don't
let
know.
me
I think I'm a little higher on them.
let me ask you this: do you think Halliburton's like 100% again?
No,
Okay. Uh,
he's playing to reach 65 games played and playing himself
yeah,
out of
okay.
all
I
NBA while he
agree.
does it.
See, I agree that, but he's still playing, so he can't. I mean, that's the thing that's hard for me to judge about this team. And another reason, like, you're judging him like he's playing 100%, everything you just said. And then you say that, and it's like the last 17 games, the dude is averaging 15 points, 3 rebounds, 10 assists, 26% from three, 40 from the field. Like, he's been an ass. Absolutely terrible. And I just, it's hard for me to not put it a lot on the injury. I like, do I want to believe he can get back up to that 26, 27, 28 points per game average? I
I'm sure
do,
you
but I
want
never,
to believe it, but it's not
I,
real.
I never saw him as that player either. You know this, but um, it was for a decent amount of time, and they were winning a bunch of games. But Pascal has declined too from when he first got there. He's been sliding as well. No Benedict Mathurin. It's hard to say. I mean, it's majority Tyrese Halliburton, yes, but there's Divian going around, and
You talk
Mathurin was
about
something.
moving healed for Siakam. That's a big spacing difference. And now Obi Toppin was shooting 85% at the rim. Since they got Siakam, since 2024, Obi's shooting like 70% at the rim. So even the guys who were elite at certain things don't look so elite at those things anymore because of the lack of spacing, swapping out Healed for Siakam. Siakam is a much better player than Buddy Healed, but fit is everything, man. So for me, I've got the Pacers next at number 7 in the standings. Personally, I don't think we're too far off from each other on them. I just think the
Nope.
reasoning might be a little different. Like, I think this team just needs to go get a floor spacer in the offseason or a really great bench guard who they can play a lot of minutes and go between starting Mathurin or starting that guy. Maybe a Malcolm Brogdon return to Indiana is in their future, but whatever it is, I'm not sold that this Pacers team is terrible. I'm just not sold on them as a serious team this season either when it gets to like, oh,
No, not at all.
you don't want to see this team in the first round. Actually, I think I'd like to see the Pacers in the first round. I think that would go well for one of those top teams in the Eastern Conference standings. So I that's who I've got at number 7 is the Indiana Pacers. I'll reveal it now because we've talked about them a lot. Who do you have up at 7, sir?
No, I got the Sixers there, so I mean, dead on basically. Um, Kyle Lowry's been pretty good. I think he's been a good spark plug. He's playing smart, playing hard. Not like he's a world beater scoring wise or anything, but 38% from three, 43 from the field, giving him 29 minutes a game over 12 game stretch. I like those numbers from Kyle Lowry. If you can get this same Kyle Lowry and it continues, like, good Patrick Beverly replacement. Um, Team's deep. I like the depth. They still need to get rid of campaign. I hate his campaign minutes. I will always be the biggest campaign detractor, but
What a weird agenda, man. You
I
are a
know it
bizarre
is so
person.
weird. It is
You are.
weird, but
That's why I love co-hosting this show with you, man, because I have some weird player agendas, right? Like
campaigns go towards my
like
top.
I'm the biggest DeLon Wright fan that I know,
Right, there you
right?
go.
But hating campaign, what do you do?
I don't hate the guy. You can't hate a little mouse like that.
You're
I
too
mean,
funny, man. All right. Well, the 76ers, we talked
Kai
about them.
Jones, baby.
He looks good. He looked really active and good in his first game with the G League team. But we talked about the Sixers ad nauseum at this point. Do you want to move up to number 6 in the
Yeah,
standings?
replace the Mo Bamba minutes with Kai Jones, unleash him.
Okay. Up at number
I
6,
do believe in
I think Kai Jones is awesome. I think saying that the Sixers need to
not obviously
unleash
unleash
him.
him for Mo Bamba. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Okay.
Just make that switch. That's the unleash. I'm not saying take Tobias's minutes yet, even though it's getting close.
Yeah,
Ricky Council should be taking those,
hey, he's
but
good. Hey, he's good. I liked him out of the draft and I liked him at Arkansas. Fordham had to play him. Anyway, at number 6 in the standings for me is the Orlando Magic. They're rolling recently, 8-2 in their last 10 on a 4-game win streak. Still not one of the upper echelon teams in this Eastern Conference for me. There are a couple teams I've got above them that I think a lot of people might say, oh, you should take the Magic. They're rolling right now. And I don't want to overbuy it. I remember when they were the 4 seed to start the year, not thinking it would last. And here we are. So, the Magic right now are the 5 seed. That's pretty close, and they're very close in the standings with the Knicks. But I think the Knicks will continue to climb. I don't know that the Magic are going to be so hot to finish out the year, but they're a good team. So I've got them at 6. I love the Paolo Franz pairing. It's so fun. Jalen Suggs finding that role for himself and being a star in it is also just freaking awesome. And how about their young guys coming along? Like you see the success they've had with Anthony Black. Um, I had him in the lottery, but I wasn't like super gigantic stock wise on him coming out of the draft. And you take a look at the last couple games for him, he's playing 9 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 11 minutes. Like he's not playing a whole lot, but I also think there's more to that. Um, you know, he is now just in the news for the jersey swap, which is not, I guess, optimal. Um,
That's who cares?
but
People make too big of a deal out of that. Let
yeah,
the
I know.
kids play.
Yeah, exactly. You take a look at how his coaching staff feels about him. I think that he is someone who they're going to be leaning on in the future. I just, as a rookie who can't shoot, it's kind of tough. Um, so the Magic are really fun. That doesn't mean they're really good. They are damn good though. And so I'm gonna go with the Orlando Magic at 6 over the Indiana Pacers, even though Hallie and Siakam is on paper a way better pairing than Paolo and Franz. Franz has been so scary good this year. He might be the most underrated player in the entire NBA right now. Um, him and Jalen Williams are, and J Dub is starting to get that real shine. You know, Jackson Lloyd went viral. Oh, no, sorry, not who went
I,
viral?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Who went viral for the top 20 player take about Jalen Williams? Was that Jack? Oh, it was Jackson
Ooh,
Frank. That was Jackson Frank,
that's
not
a
Jackson
terrible,
Lloyd.
terrible. Yeah, he's
Um,
always trying to get ahead of people. That's one thing I
I,
despise. And
I like Jackson Frank. He's
no,
cool.
he's fine. I'm just saying one thing I despise about analysts and people in sports media is trying to get so far ahead of everyone just to say you were first and right versus reporting on what's actually talking about what's actually happening.
Okay,
Like there's difference between predicting and saying what you actually think. That's just not remotely true.
okay, that I can understand. I do think he's really good at what he does, and I do think
Yeah, no, he's a great writer.
and I
Great
do
writer.
think he jumped the gun on J Dub, but the motive behind his take was this guy is a top flight player, and I think he is. I think the same thing about Franz Wagner. Like Franz is probably easily a top 50 player, and I don't know if a lot of people would say that about him. I would say he's top 40, 45, and like not even think about the list, just be able to say that. So I'm gonna go with the Magic at 6.
Dude, those are very conservative numbers. And um, yeah, very fair. 40 and 50. This is where we're gonna start to disagree, and I love it. Makes things fun. I think the Cleveland Cavs are going to look like the Cavs in the playoffs last year if things don't start squaring away. And I've been super, uber,
You've got them at
duper
6
high on the Cavs all year, man. I loved this team when they're peaking, but I've always worried about the Garland Mitchell pairing because
at
they've
6.
never peaked together. Yes, I have them at 6. They're 5-5 in their last 10. No Mitchell, man. Yes, no Mitchell. I mean, these other teams are better and right now, and this is power rankings, and I think they're close. Um, Success in the playoff wise, to have title chances wise with no Mitchell at the moment. So that's how I feel. And if Mitchell doesn't come back soon, they're not going to have enough time for him and Garland to work things out and try to peak together. And I just don't think it's going to work. And it's going to all come crumbling down in Cleveland, unfortunately, because I really like this run. I love the Marcus Morris edition. I should give him a little bit of edge when things continue to go south here for him, which I'm kind of predicting at this moment. But yeah, it's unfortunate. They were number 2 for a while. They're sitting in 6 for me at the moment.
Oh, that is low, man. I gotta know. What do you think? Okay, I tweeted the other day that Donovan Mitchell should stay in Cleveland. That Evan
Yes, he
Mobley
should.
Evan Mobley's been expected to be ready earlier than he should. You know, I said we Nick fans kind of said in the last playoff series last year, like that guy's 2 years and 25 pounds away from being a really freaky, scary player, but he's not there yet. It's been 1 year and he certainly has not put on 20 pounds. So for me, I think the mindset has to be like, hey, this guy's not ready yet, but when he is, he's going to be cost controlled. And for Donovan, he should stay in Cleveland. I don't know that the Mobley Allen pairing is something I would look to continue to invest in. That doesn't mean move Mobley. That means retool your expectations, maybe move Allen, um, and get yourself a wing. Can you move uh Garland's been so fantastic recently, but I would move Garland before I move Mobley. I think
I like
the people are trying to jump the gun with Evan Mobley and saying like, "Oh, he's a bust. He's not good. He's really thin still. Let him figure things out." I know Chet came right in and started dominating. That's cool. That's Chet, right? We're talking about Evan Mobley. This is a different conversation. Um, so I definitely am not as low on the Cavs as you, but I really am fascinated by
you
this
seem
take.
like you're you seem like you're high on him long term, which is great. And like one interesting dialogue with the Cavs right now is it's I hate these at the same time, but like it's always a draft debate because they came in the same class together, and it was a decision these guys made. But Jalen Green's starting to get his groove back, peaking in Houston. It's not empty stats; they're winning, playing great ball right now. And the whole debate between Mobley and Green, and it's just different situations. And the difference is Mobley's been valuable the day he came in the league, where Jalen's a guy that was raw and had to develop. And Mobley's also been on a pretty dang good team since he's came in the league, so opportunity is completely different as well. But people just think Evan Mobley's still the same guy, but you got to watch this guy. You got to look. I mean, just looking at his stats, even the biggest things that step out, he's improved in field goal percentage all 3 years 50, 55, 58 this year. And attempts are all the same. 3 points are, doesn't shoot many of them, but he's up to 31 on this year, only a couple attempts. Free throws gone up. So it's like the guy's improving in enough places where that's all you need to see for me. Usage, that's going to be the deal until Mobley or not Mobley, Garland or Mitchell leave. And I think he's just got to stay ready, and he's just got to work on his game and where he can get it. And he is, and he's getting way more efficient across the board. Um, I really like this guy's future. I'm still bullish on it. Still buying all of his stock. It's just his usage has been the exact same since he came into the league. So people can't forget that this team is just designed the reverse of Minnesota, and a lot of people don't like that. I mean, you got to look back at C.J. McCollum, Dame Lillard days. This team just has a better roster around it. The last thing I'm going to say about the Cavs, I still am torn if I want to get rid of one of the guards or try them out one more year because they haven't reached their peak. So up to
Exactly. Give it another year.
I'm okay with your take on that.
I want to get to this final five, man. I really
Yep.
do because these last three spots are where things get spicy. And speaking of hot, I've got the Miami Heat at number 5. And listen, I know they're not as good this season. I know Jimmy said, "Oh, now's that time. We're gonna turn it around." And the narrator goes, "Update. They did not turn it around." But they're 37 and 31. I know they're 4 and 6 in their last 10. I know they needed a Bam Adebayo game-winning Hail Mary 3 to beat the Detroit Pistons, but I really think like you need to put Jaime Jaquez Jr. to the side and realize like, okay, I know he's what's different from last year's team, and Gabe Vincent's gone, he's there, whatever, but it's not like the whole team rests on his shoulders. It's got to be mostly about Jimmy Butler stepping up to task, doing his job, which is putting this team on his back. That's what Jimmy does. And,
Yep.
he plays 31 minutes against the Pistons. He has 14, 4, and 3 on 5 of 11 shooting, 15 points against the Nuggets in that overhyped finals rematch. Um, I just don't think it's optimal. It's optimal to look at his stat columns right now and think, oh, but 37 points against the Jazz on 12 of 19 shooting, 3 of 3 from downtown. A different game against the Pistons, 26, 6, 8 assists. Like that guy's still in there. Someone's home. You know what I mean? And I think for Jimmy, he's really got to lock in. I think he can. I think he and Bam can take this team to a level where just trusting the Miami Heat system, trusting Spoelstra's coaching, and trusting that duo at the top can get this team far into the playoffs, second round, maybe. Even though, right now you take a look at the standings and you think, oh, well, they've got the Celtics in the first round as of right now. There's no way. Uh, I could see them pulling an upset on a team like Cleveland if they make it up the standings. So Miami just needs to really fight, and Miami needs to get themselves up in the standings, get an easier first round opponent, because I think the second round is calling their name again. I'm going to go with them in the fifth spot for my Eastern Conference power rankings. Zach, what about you?
Yeah, I also agree that they're at 5 for me. I think they could finish as high as 3 before the playoffs. They just gotta do a lot better, focusing on the moment. They need more out of Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier mainly. They're 4-6 in their or 6-4 in their last 10. Sorry. Still 3.5 games behind the Sixers for that 6 seed. I think they can do it, and they need to do it if they. Oh, I'm sorry. They're only a game back to the Sixers in
Yeah,
my
man.
eyes.
They
My
are
eyes. I gotta throw on the
38,
glasses here.
38 and 30,
Throw them on.
38,
What am I looking
31.
at?
They're half a game back of the Pacers, a full game
They
back of the
got
Sixers.
they got to get to that 4 or 5 to have a legit shot coming out of the East, in my opinion. Um, they can do it. They're still 5 games back of the 3 seed, so that's not completely out of the picture. Uh, but yeah, I need more domination out of Jimmy Butler because right now it's just really inconsistent yet. And Bam's done good. I think he's holding up his end of the bargain. It's just Jimmy Butler, Terry Rozier. I don't know if we're gonna get a ton more out of Terry. I do. I will always say I like the supporting cast as much as any Jimmy Butler supporting cast he's ever had in Miami. So get it done, man. Now's the time.
I like that we both have them at 5. I like that this is one of the places where we came to agree. Um, that they're a team that battles, man. So they're gonna need to battle this playoffs to overcome the depth stuff, like Rozier not being exactly who they wanted thus far. I think he figures things out. I think he gives you a big playoff game where he scores like 26 and everyone's like, "Oh, cool. DeLon Wright, man." He is really fun. He's really good. I think that was a great addition. I'm gonna go ahead and say that they have a chance of beating the Cavs in the first round if that matchup happens. And that's who I've got next up is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I have them at number 4. I'm definitely much higher than you on them. I think they can figure things out this season. I really think they won't make a title run. That's why um, they're at the bottom of that tier. You know, I've got everyone from the everyone from the Nets down in one tier. I've got the Bulls, Hawks, and Raptors in another tier. I've got the Cavs, Heat, Pacers, Magic, and 76ers in that next tier. And then those top 3 teams left are my top tier, obviously. But for the Cavs, I almost wish I could put them in a tier in between. You know, there's some title equity here, but not enough for me to say they're a top dog. But they're definitely better than any other team in terms of title chances. You need them to really piece it together. You need them to get a big series from Mobley. You need them to be good. And I don't know that they have that in them just yet. The Max Drew signing so good for them. I just think they needed a little more than George Niang, like that. That's the one that doesn't really move me a lot. He's barely played recently, getting like 12 minutes a game over their last couple games. And for me with Niang, it's like, okay, you get someone in that spot who's a defender first. You start developing a bit more of a team identity. Lastly, I want to shout out Isaac Okoro, averaging career highs in points, rebounds, and 3-point percentage. It's almost 10 points a game, almost 3.5 rebounds a game, and he's shooting 40% from 3 this year. So he is going to be better for them in these playoffs. That's part of why I have them at number 4, because they've got a real nice two-way complementary piece. A modern, complementary guy for Mitchell, for Garland, and for the two bigs. I've got the Cavs at number 4. Zach, who do you have in the 4 spot, my man?
Yeah, I have the New York Knicks. Really, I just lean on Jalen Brunson here. That's where it comes down to for me. I like what McBride's doing. I like the supporting cast enough. It was tough for me to put them here because no Randall. OG's been sparingly.
He was hurt
I
with the elbow. He came back. Now he's
I
out
yeah.
again. Yeah, I get it.
I just I lean on Brunson. I've seen enough.
You know what got announced while we were recording this podcast?
What?
Mitchell Robinson full contact practice today.
That's big. There we go. So I was seeing the future here, people. I was seeing it, and so that's a big deal. Very big deal. Mitchell Robinson's massive. I'm more confident in that pick now. Here's the thing: they're 6-4, just like the Heat over their last 10. They're still in the 4 spot,
And still
so it
no
matches
Randall.
up. It matches up where I have them. I mean, it's the team above them. You can argue that you're going to be a little bit surprised with more now in the moment ish, but um, the biggest surprise, Dante DiVincenzo for me, just his sparks when they need him the most are so timely. Josh Hart's being the very peak version of himself. Yeah, I love the supporting cast of this team, and Brunson's enough. Like he's way better than Maxey and Halliburton right now. Way better than Darius Garland and what Cleveland's doing. So that's where I'm at. Jalen Brunson at number 4, and the
He's
Villanova Wildcats, I
You
should say.
think if
The
they get
Villanova
Randall,
Knicks.
yeah, if they get Randall and Mitch back, you're looking at Brunson, DiVincenzo, Anunoby, Randall, Hartenstein starting five. Off the bench, you've got McBride, Burks, Bogdanovich. You've got Achua if you want to play him, and obviously
He's
Robinson.
been good.
This team is really good. That's why I've got them next up at my number 3 spot. I've got the New York Knicks at number 3. I think they're the non-Celtics Bucks team in the Eastern Conference that has a real shot at winning the title. They need the shooters to get hot like Miami's did last year. If Bogdanovich and Burks go on a crazy hot streak in the playoffs, if they combine to shoot like 44% from 3, if DiVincenzo's hitting his shots, like I think the Knicks can go really far. Their defense is so physical, tough, nasty, high floor, but also high ceiling defense. The offense for me is more of the question mark, but you just see Brunson operate against a team like Golden State where they're small and the spacing is there for him. It's food, right? And then you think about a bigger team. Well, he's so short. He's learned with his footwork how to navigate tight spaces, how to deal with the lack of spacing. So I think Brunson's really well prepared to lead this specific Knicks team into the playoffs with his, skill set and specific skills. I've got the Knicks at number 3. They're really good. They're not necessarily rolling in their last 10. That's because I don't know. Robinson has been out for months. Julius Randle's been out for like a month. OG Anunoby's in and out the lineup like a hamburger. And I think that um, the bench guys, Bogdanovich and Burks, have not been stellar since they acquired them. But you know what? Very recently, Bogdanovich and Burks look like they're figuring out how to leave the game a net positive, even on bad shooting nights. That's the key to me. Can they continue that trend, continue to figure it out? So by the time they're both just bench players and not getting leaned on for starter minutes with Randall and Robinson and Anunoby out of the game, I think this Knicks team can get on a real run and get rolling. So they're number 3 for me.
Yeah, a couple things in the Knicks. Couple games ago, they're the first team to hold opponents under 80 points in 3 straight games in 12 years. I love that. It's so much fun because I like differentiality. I like just randomness of teams throughout the league just doing different things. And the Knicks lean into what they have: depth, strength in numbers, and their defense. And man, I can't get over like what this depth team with depth does. Everybody does their role and performs. The only way you can see this team reach their ceiling though, and my if Randall comes back, obviously he's going to, but like I need a little more consistency from Boyan. He's shooting 34% from 3. He needs to get that to upper 30s. Josh Hart, I'd like to be up from 31. He doesn't take a ton of them,
Yeah, he's
but
not a shooter.
he
You don't
plays a
you
lot
don't
of minutes. He gets open. It's yes, he passes them up a lot of times. So you need the guys like Boyan and OG at 36. I mean, they could get there even at these percentages with a healthy Randall. I just think it'd give me way more confidence because I think OG should have way more open looks than he did in Toronto. Therefore, he should be more efficient. Same with Boyan. I think the ball movement is fine on this team. So I still would like to see him a little more efficient, even though you're getting that out of guys like Brunson and Dante and Alec, not Burks. Not Burks. No,
he has not been good since they
no.
retraded for him. That's
Bench his ass.
that's okay to say. Deuce McBride's been better than him, flat out. So that's like
He
okay.
has, yes,
Yeah.
41%,
I think it's so
42%.
well no, better at like every aspect of basketball. And I think that that's okay to think and to talk about. So yeah. Do you want to get going on these final two? Oh no, wait. Who do you have at number
3.
3?
Yep. So Orlando Magic, man, they're just healthy. I think their talent is showing and
Wow. Dude,
enough.
I didn't
Like
even realize you hadn't picked them yet. I was like, who the hell is this 13? Oh my
they're fifth in
God.
this. Hey, there's fifth in the standings. They got the best record over the last 10 in the East at
Golly.
8-2, tied with the Celtics there. They're still only 3.5 games back of the number 2 seed. They could get there. They really could if they keep playing at this rate. Like, I just love the pairing of Paolo and Franz. Their defense. I'm not like I like Jamal Mosley. It's just I'm not gonna rush the gun on them. Like I thought Quinn Snyder was could be some guru on any type of lineup, and then I'm seeing what he's done in Atlanta, but that still could be more of a Trey and DeJounte thing than a Quinn Snyder thing. So I'm not gonna run into Jamal Mosley just yet. But like, who do you think's a better coach between JB Bickerstaff and Jamal Mosley?
I'm gonna go with Mosley. I'm not a Bickerstaff guy at all, to be
Gets a
honest.
lot out of his teams for the talent he has, and up until now he's really
Sure, but I think Mosley's someone who I might trust to take a good team, to be a great team defensively. And Bickerstaff is someone I would trust to come in and give an organization without organization a stern talking to and get them in shape. So I'm gonna go Mosley by a hair. The Magic
fair.
at 3? Wow.
Yeah, no, it's more so giving them their due now, but I really think no Joel Embiid, no Julius Randle. I just think this team's got the goods right now that they can compete with anyone. Playoffs start tomorrow would be a tough sell for me. But at the same time, I need to see those other teams fully healthy. Yeah, Jonathan Isaac's been incredible. That's where I'm at.
All right. Yeah, Isaac had like some crazy ass like crossover pull up Jimbo the other day. And it was like, where did that come from? But let's get to the final two here. Let's be quick because it's easy to talk about. The Milwaukee Bucks are my number two. They are so talented. They're so good. They have some things to put together. Is Doc Rivers going to help them put it together? I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't care. Brooke Lopez, Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The talent speaks for itself. They are a ridiculously good team who are 7-3 in their last 10. And, there are a lot of teams like the Cavaliers can take their show on the road. They're 21-12 on the road, but Milwaukee's been dominant at home, 27-7, and then 17-17 on the road. I understand, right? But no one's dominant at home like the Boston Celtics. It's just a little different. Um, So obviously they're the team left. I think it's fine if we just talk about both at once. I have the Celtics as better because they're just a juggernaut. They've won 10 more games than any team in the Eastern Conference and 6 more games than any team in the league. That's really impressive. The Celtics are the top dog. We know that. We know Tatum doesn't have to be a 1A superstar world beater for them to win the championship. He just needs to play his role, being a wing scorer and creator and a perimeter defender on the other end. The Bucks are below the Celtics for me because one, the coaching. I don't think the Celtics have a fantastic coach by any means, but I don't think the Bucks have close to one. And I think the Celtics coach works for them. I think Missoula works for them. So whatever that means in the playoffs, I guess we'll see if they are bought in or not. I know last year Al Horford had to like yell at the team before a practice before the playoffs and be like, "Hey, can we like listen to coach and focus?" That's never good. But I think the Celtics have done some growing up. I think losing in the finals was a good thing for their core long term. I always say there's nothing like getting embarrassed on national TV to motivate you and take a look at Jalen Brown this season. So he's been out of this world. He is amazing. He's been all NBA, and the Celtics are the number one team on my Eastern Conference power rankings. The Bucks are number two because they're still really, really good, and I buy their starting five as one of the top starting fives in the entire NBA.
Yeah, no, and this is who we expected at the beginning of the year. It's just their depth is really picking up. Middleton's looking healthy again, and that changes your opinion really quickly when their third guy back comes back quick. And fits and plays really, really good. But Bobby Portis over his last 7, 18 points, 57 from the field, 53 from 3, 90 from the line, 8 boards. Dude's been nasty. He's really been um, just holding it down. And this is the best Doc Rivers team outside of the Boston Celtics Big Three in his entire career. There's no excuses here, regardless of how good the Celtics are. Talent wise, this team is close. The thing I keep going back and forth on is the Damian Lillard conundrum. Like, I seem to only like watch his great games, honestly, and I definitely pay attention to all their games. It's just I don't watch every single game, and he still hasn't been as consistent as my mind telling me he has been recently. It's more so other guys on the team picking up slack. They have been moving the ball way better with Doc Rivers. The offense looks way better. The defense is night and day. I mean, they're looking at top 5, 7 defense versus a bottom 5 with Adrian Griffin has been the biggest improvement. But I do want to say their offense, Damian Lillard's getting rid of the ball quicker. He's relocating. Um, it's a fluid offense. It's not just the Dame Giannis show on and off. But Dame over his last 7, 26, 47 from field, 42 from 3, 95 from the line, 9 assists. This is his best 7-game stretch of the season. Will it continue? Time will tell. There's still a couple massive games and 2 or 3 shitty ones in that 7-game stretch. So we'll see. I'd prefer the Damian Lillard, honestly. That's 25 good efficiency, consistency, 8 assists versus the 41, 10 points, 35, 18 points. You know, that Dame Lillard, which we've been seeing all year, because I just think Giannis is always consistent. Giannis is going to hold it down the other players. I believe their consistency way more than Dame right now. It's just we don't get to pick and choose what version of Dame we're going to get.
Yeah. I think we
So
get the good version. I think he comes around for the playoffs and balls out. Um, I think they figure it out. I think that's a team that will, when it comes to it, just figure it out. And I don't think they win the NBA championship this season, but you know, if a top team gets upset in the first or second round, maybe not the first round, but the second round, it'll be the Bucks, or the Cavaliers, one of those two. But I still think they're a top team, and so I'm gonna give them the respect as such. I can't put the Knicks over them just yet because the Knicks aren't healthy. So got to be the Bucks for me at 2, and then I think the Celtics really separated themselves clearly. It's got to be them at 1. So yeah,
um,
there it is. Eastern Conference power
don't need to
ranked.
touch on the Celtics. Yeah, we've talked about them all year. They've just been
And
amazing.
any takes on how you think they'll do in the playoffs?
The Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, you think they
Oh,
breeze
they're
through?
still my pick through and through.
Okay.
Not. I'm getting less worried about their depth. Jaylen Brown is looking at his very best right now. Um, I just think Jason Tatum's still flying under the radar big time. I think he should be more in talk for the top 3 to 5 MVP race based on team success and record. He's doing his job and hasn't really wavered a ton. I just think that part's unfair. But yeah, this team is now or never for this duel. I believe that it's going to be interesting between the Bucks and the Celtics. I need that series more than anything. I don't want to see any surprises unless it's we get them in the second round for some reason. But I need that series at some point. It's too good not to. Legacy's on the line. Yeah, it'd be fun.
All right. Well, with that said, now we have power ranked the entire Eastern Conference. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Zach, thanks for doing this along with me. We'll make the outro quick here because it's a longer episode. Thumbs up, subscribe, rate 5 stars, support us however you want, however you can, somewhere in between. We don't mind. We just love that you guys tune in and love the show. Thank you so much. With that said, thank you so much for listening to or watching the latest all things NBA from A to Z, presented by Ballislife. For Zach Noble, I'm Kris and saying thank you and so long.